Welcome to Property Mama Adventures in Real Estate, episode 36. It's here each week I share all the shenanigans that go on in the real estate industry, be they real estate agents, vendors, buyers, tenants, all kinds of people within the real estate industry. We are here to share what goes on. If we've not met before, my name is Wendy Chamberlain and I'm a buyer's agent, buyer's advocate here in Melbourne, Australia. I've been buying and selling real estate for almost 3 decades. So there's always shenanigans aplenty to share. So let's get right into it. I wanted to share about an auction that I heard about. It happened a few years ago, but it's interesting when things go a little bit sideways. So this was an auction in an area of Melbourne, in Melbourne's east, and the auction was going along quite well. People were bidding, etc., and it was at the pointy end of the auction, what I call the pointy end, where the bids start to slow down and it's getting down to the last two bidders on the street making bids. And the auctioneer is navigating the process with the buyers, taking bids, etc. And it got down to the final bids coming through, and the auction was being called 3 times. So it was about to be sold, and it was going to be sold for $3 million. And so the agent saying, going once, going twice, calling for those final bids, which is what they do. Now, if you've ever attended an auction, you know that there's a process. So let me just cover up on that. So you might be going to an auction this weekend and wondering, so the auctioneer, I talk about this, reading the play of an auction. The auctioneer will start to call. Now, if they're doing this call right at early stages of an auction, they're actually not going to sell the property in all likelihood. It's very, very unlikely that they're going to sell the property. So if they've started proceedings and somebody starts bidding and there's only one bidder, and then they're putting in a vendor bid, etc., and they're saying going once, going twice, calling it 3 times, and it's right at the start of the auction, it's likely a tactic. Often the auctioneer will say, just one moment, I'll go and talk to our vendor, and they'll go inside and they'll have a conversation with the vendor and they'll come back out. They will do that at the early process of an auction where there's not a lot of activity. However, when they're calling for bids at the other end, which is the business end, where it's been called on the market and you know that it's going to sell, well, then that's what you do not muck around. Then you need to basically, you got to get into the mix. If you got to bid to buy, you got to get into the mix of that auction. And so this is where this auction was. Somebody had placed a bid for $3 million, and then this other person placed a bid for $3 million and $5,000. So it was $3 million and $5,000. That's where the bid was. And so the auctioneer was calling for any other final bids. There wasn't anybody else. And so they said going once, going twice, and they said sold to this person for $3 million and $5. So they obviously went over, shook their hand, took them inside to sign all the paperwork. And they went up to the vendor, and the vendor said, that's not the reserve. That's not my reserve. My reserve is $3 million and $50,000. So they have just conducted an auction on the street. Now, auction sales are final. It's an unconditional final. Here in Victoria, there's auction rules, and it's an unconditional sale on the day under the hammer. Auction rules are also state 3 days either side of an auction, you can't cool off, because in Victoria, we have 3 days cooling off on a private sale, which means for a penalty, you can change your mind. And it's a percentage of the purchase price. So you can do that. Not under auction terms. And if you've just conducted an auction and had somebody bid to buy it, walking in thinking they're going to buy the property, the vendor refused to sign. They would not sign the paperwork, said, that's not our reserve. Our reserve is $3 million and $50,000. You've knocked the property down to be sold at $3 million and $5,000. We're not taking it. We're not signing it. So what do you do? What does the agent do? Well, it's the agent's fault, because there's clearly a miscommunication. They didn't understand. I don't know. Maybe the vendor changed their mind, which they shouldn't be doing. but obviously there was a miscommunication. The property's been sold on the street, the buyers come inside, and so the real estate agent ended up having to cover the cost, cover the difference. So the vendor said, no, my reserve is $3,050,000. The buyer had paid on the street under auction conditions $3,005,000. So there's a $45,000 deficit. So number one, that's going to come out of the real estate agent's commission. So they're going to have to, because somebody's got to sort that out. If the vendor is refusing to sign, but the buyer has legally purchased the property for that price, the boo-boo has to be covered off by somebody. So it was the real estate agent that they would have taken it out of their commission or taken it out of their pocket. So it just goes to show that even industry professionals can make mistakes, and that's an expensive mistake that you would not want to be making very often at all. And so it does happen. It's very interesting when we're talking about auctions, various tactics real estate agents employ, not just on the auction day, but in the lead up to the auction. So I know that there's one particular real estate agency who will tell buyers that they don't have the contract of sale available. So you need a contract of sale, and I always suggest to buyers, to my clients, that you get your paperwork checked. And I've talked about this on other episodes of Property Mama, how there are errors and boo-boos in contracts. So you got to get it checked. So there's missing paperwork, or there's ambiguity that needs to be clarified by a legal representative. And you got to get all this stuff done before the day of the auction, because, as I said, it's an unconditional sale on the day. You can't, well, you can, but you won't have much luck. You can't go along to an auction, bid to buy the property, and then go, oh, hang on a minute, on the contract, I don't agree with this because you didn't do this, or it says this. It's too bad. That's what you've purchased. All of that due diligence has to be done beforehand. It has to be done before the property is purchased by you. And if you're not happy with something on the contract and you've had it checked and you're still not happy, well, then you walk away. You don't buy something that's going to be a problem that you can't rectify or be confident that you can rectify, because you're buying under auction terms. It's unconditional on the day, as I said, in the lead up as well, or afterwards. So one of the tactics that I know a real estate agent here in Melbourne uses is that they will tell buyers they don't have the contract. They do have the contract, but they don't pass it out for 2 weeks after the first open. Now, why do they do that? It gives them an excuse to speak to the buyers. It keeps them there. So a lot of people may want to look at a contract, and based on what is in the contract, they may decide yes or no about their interest in a property. Take, for example, if they're looking for a property that has owner corporation fees on it, which is like your housing authority type thing, that you're needing body corporation fees. That is all documented in a contract. If that's not available, they can't check it. So they will probably wait for that to come through. And so it does keep the buyers there. I don't agree with that as a tactic. I think if you've got a contract, you should be providing that to the buyers, gives them the time to make those informed decisions and do their own due diligence on their purchase. But it is something that this real estate agency does. And so when they say it's not available, now, having said that, you see, it's not one size fits all with any of this in relation to real estate, because we're dealing with people, with humans, with human error. I have also heard of and had experiences of the contract coming in super late. So there was one property that we were looking at, and the real estate agent was even considering having to move the auction because it was the Friday and the paperwork was still not available. And that was genuinely, it wasn't available. And so for whatever reason, so I suppose the issue is it can take time for the various certificates, etc., to come in from whatever bodies are needing to provide them in a contract of sale. So you've got things from the Vic roads, the council rates, There's lots of these bodies that provide this paperwork, and owners corporations is a big one. They have 14 days to provide the paperwork, and they tend to take every single minute of those 14 days to send it through. So that forms part of what is called a Section 32 here in Victoria, alongside your contract of sale, and that's the paperwork that describes everything about that property. It describes things like the title boundaries. It shows where the sewer plan. It will show flood zones, bushfire zones. Those type of things are all covered in here. And then you've got your owners corporation, which has needs to include minutes of meeting. There's lots of different moving parts, if you like, and bodies that have to be approached to pull in the necessary paperwork. And on this particular property that was going to auction on the Saturday, the paperwork was not even in. And people, and I wouldn't encourage them, they're not going to bid to buy on property they've not even looked at the contract of sale on, besides which you've got nothing to sign. But the Section 32 document, which details all of these things about the property, any heritage overlays, everything about it is in there. It says who's the title, lots of different things. So it's very, very important that that gets provided. And then you've got the due diligence that needs to take place, where I talk about giving it to your legal representative, to your solicitor to check it. Now, they're busy and you're waiting the day before the auction and the contract is coming in and you're trying to get that person to check, basically drop everything else and check that contract. They may not be available to be able to do that. Some people need time. And so it just does cause all kinds of issues. So one thing I do say when we are supporting a client to sell their property is get your paperwork sorted as soon as possible, because a minimum of 2 weeks to get everything, all your ducks lined up, to get a contract together, to have it available. So it's something that is very, very important. And so, as I said, I do think that it is sometimes used as an auction tactic, that they don't provide it. But then there are genuine cases when it's not available. So always request it, get it checked. If you don't understand something in there, this is what your legal representative is there for. There are people on your real estate team that you need to bring in and have them support you through this process, because you do need someone to help you with checking your contracts. You do need someone to help you with whatever your financial needs and circumstances are. And you need somebody like a buyer's advocate, which is what we do, to support you to find the homes and make sure that you understand what it is you're buying relating to whatever else is sold recently, so that you're not overpaying and you know that you are getting good value for the money that you are putting forward. And we're talking hundreds of thousands and millions of dollars here. So it is 100% worthwhile for you to have that team around you to support you. So I wanted to also share about an open for inspection that I went to one time, where the real estate agent, when arrived there, the real estate agent, they were just sitting on the couch. And you know what? They did not get off the couch for the entirety of the open. They were just sitting on the couch, which it's quite rare. I mean, generally the real estate agent greets you at the door, takes your name and your details, and then invites you to have a look at the property. And then as you're asking if you've got any questions, and then leave, and then they'll follow you up afterwards, because people don't generally like to have a conversation, an open conversation, at an open in front of lots of other people, because people overhear, and it's all quite secret squirrel what they want to say. They don't want to share whether they like a property, etc. So they'll keep their cards close. But to walk into an open for inspection and they're going, "Where's the agent?" And then there's this person sitting on the couch and going, "Oh, hi, you're the agent. Okay, great." And in this particular property, they're just like not really showing a lot of interest. So first of all, if I was that vendor, I probably would sack that agent, because they're not actively doing their job, which is engaging with the buyers. And there was no access to the garage. And I asked, "Well, can we get into the garage?" And the agent said, "Well, no, I don't have a key. I don't have access to the garage. And I'll tell the vendor that they've just lost another sale because I haven't been able to get into the garage." Let's circle back to say, yeah, probably not the right agent to be selling your property. So saying that you tell people tell your vendor off for not being able to have access to the garage. Additionally to that, it was so it wasn't going to auction. It was a private sale property. So we're inspecting this property, and we needed to get a building inspection done. That's what we wanted to do. So real estate agents like to have, when an offer is put forward, they like it to be what I call clean. That is, there's no conditions on it. And so we wanted to get the building and pest inspection done so that we could make our offer on this property, and then the offer would have no subject to terms, no subject to a building and pest inspection, because in the eyes of the agent and the vendor, that is sometimes perceived to be a weaker offer, because if it's subject to, it means, well, I'm going to agree to sell my home to you, but it's with that little caveat that, well, it's subject to it passing the building and pest inspection. And so we wanted to get the inspection done as soon as we could on this particular property, which was when it ended up that was the day that all the offers were due. And the real estate agent refused. They said, no, you're not going to be able to do that because I'm fully booked that day. I don't know, maybe they had to sit on the couch again. Who knows? I'm fully booked that day, and the property's going to get sold tonight anyway. Do you get the feeling that this agent is not really working in the best interest of their vendor? You're being appointed by the person to help them sell their home for the best price. And let's just add into the mix here, you're dealing with a professional in the industry being a buyer's agent who has a client. We are out hunting for that client. We are ready to buy. Everything's pre-approved. We've got our budget. We're looking to get a building inspection done so we can make an offer to buy this property. And the likelihood is that our offer is going to get accepted because we would have done our due diligence around what the home is worth. And I don't make bullshit offers. I make offers that are solid and are likely to get accepted. But no, it's going to get sold anyway, so don't worry about it. And we can't get you through. So we went ahead and made our offer subject to a building and pest inspection because I want to protect the interests of my client. We could have got it out the way and actually made a clean offer, but no. And then the whole argy-bargy started about that they didn't like the terms of our building and pest inspection that we put on there, because the standard building and pest inspection clause that is provided certainly here in Victoria on contracts of sales is very, very much slated towards the vendor, which makes sense because it's the vendor who has had their legal representative prepare it, and so it is in favour of the vendor. Well, we have our own clause that we like to put in to protect the interest, because that's what we're here to do. We're here to support our clients to help them purchase their properties. And so then this agent basically turned and became an absolute bully around why that clause couldn't be in there. Look, there's a way to approach things. There's a way to have a conversation with someone, with a professional in the same industry as you, or you can choose not to do that. And this person chose not to do that. So, yes, that's what happened with that particular real estate agent. And, sometimes you just want to be able to give the vendor a call and say, hey, are you aware this is how your real estate agent is acting? Well, we can't do that, obviously, because, well, we don't have their contact details, but we've got to respect people within the industry. But you go, oh, the person is not actually looking after your rights. They're not actually looking after your best interests. If they're sitting on the couch, clearly upset with the vendor and being snarky about them to other people walking into the house, not allowing inspections to happen, honestly, I'd be getting on the blower, and I would be sacking that agent and choosing someone that was going to better represent the interests as well as a seller. That's what I would want. I want someone acting as well as they can to get the very best price for my property. So what do? We are Chamberlain Property Advocates. As I said, we buy and sell houses for clients. So if you are currently out and about looking to get your home on the market and you do need that support, you may not have sold before, you might not be confident, you might not like dealing with real estate agents, we step in and we are your independent voice to help navigate those waters to help you sell your home. We also help with clients that are looking to buy their properties. That might be bidding at auction for them, because we don't get emotional about that. It could be negotiating, because I've done this for nearly 3 decades. Or it could be the full process where we help you find your dream home and have access to properties that are not advertised. That's part of what we bring to the table, as well as being able to, as I said earlier, make sure that you're not overpaying for property and do all the due diligence steps that are required. So chamberlainadvocates.com.au, or you can reach out across our socials. Thanks again for joining me on this episode of Property Mama Adventures in Real Estate. We're getting great feedback from people that are listening to the podcast, so I really appreciate that. If you could share it with your friends, family, colleagues, because we do love having a bit of a yarn and chatting about all the things that go on in the world of real estate. Give us a like or a thumbs up on your favourite streaming platform, and I look forward to having you join me in your ears on our next episode. Bye-bye for now.